Hello and welcome to Five Things Friday, in quotes, APAC edition. Now, I appreciate the region is huge, but we've got NRF coming up in less than 2 weeks. NRF APAC that's taking place in Singapore. My lovely co-host Laura is based in Sydney, Australia. So it would be a miss of not doing a regional focus as opposed to trying to. But as Laura quite rightly just pointed out to me, is that some of these e-commerce issues are global issues, or digital issues are global digital issues. In today's show, we're going to carve off into three specific areas. We're going to have a special guest, and that's Ryf. Ryf is the managing director for NRF APAC. I filmed with him yesterday on the top two things that are top of mind for him, given that his show is in less than 2 weeks. And then we're going to do two things with Laura, and then I'm going to do an AI co-host, new retail podcast co-host called ChatGPT. But anyway, Laura, why don't we hand over to you, and you tell us what's been top of mind for you?
The first one I think I cannot not talk about is Shopify Editions just dropped. So this is global. All the Shopify bros are definitely in full swing of really reading every part of that report and picking the best bits. For me, there's a couple of themes that are quite important. I'd say the one of them is they've released a new theme template called Horizon, which will have everyone starting to question, should they be redesigning their theme? It's a lot to do with AI, how you make it's going to be super easy. They're really, really leaning into natural language in this. So really cool new theme template. It's going to be super intuitive to make, customize, and build. Then the second one is market. So that's really how you go global. How you go global in Shopify has changed a few times, and they've just been iterating and getting it right. But markets seem to be the now the standardized best way for going global for every region that works with Shopify. Point of sale, they have been kind of doubling down in this. It hasn't really been enterprise level, but they're definitely making some plays into it. So they're making improvements there, a couple of good ones. And then the Sidekick, which is their generative AI tool. So I would say that one of the things that kind of really stands true to me is they're really leaning into how natural language is going to be a big part of how people use Shopify and the tool. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. So I would definitely say for me that new theme is interesting. So around the pause, they've definitely made the interface a lot better. They've made a lot of upgrades in the additions. The interface is a lot stronger, so there is a lot of changes. And one of the things that I read was a big issue that they've kind of surfaced is if you're in the store and you buy four things and let's say one of them isn't in your size, so you want to buy the four things, but three of them you're going to take home and one is going to be shipped to your home. What they've had to do up to now is basically give you two invoices. So you could still do it, but it was a little bit clunky. From a customer point of view, you're then getting two invoices, it's two orders. Probably from the retailer point of view, then you're getting a skewed data set. So that has now been changed. So I'd say that is one of the main announcements, and just that kind of interface is really improved. Yeah, and optimized. And one thing that's interesting that I think this happened the last time, they were selling a lot of the hardware. I think they thought their hardware would be a big benefit. And what they've decided to do is scrap that, let the retailer decide what hardware they want, whether it be tablets, iPhones, and really make the interface or program it the way they want to do it. So that's a little bit of a shift. So there's quite a few pivots. So that's cool. Markets are really good that we're kind of moving to a best practice way to go global. That's what we mean by markets is it's just going to be a lot easier to manage opening up in multiple countries, but also settling in that currency. So it was always about that settlement and the currency and how the retailer is getting the money back to them. And the Sidekick, right? You're talking about now you can actually you get a sales spike, you can actually ask in natural language, can you give me a breakdown of why you think this happened? So really, really cool things. The one thing for me from coming from agency land is this new theme. I would definitely say I play in that more mid to enterprise retail space. You don't have to use it. There'll be a lot that jump in it. I would probably more wait to see how that pans out. And I think we're going through the next couple of months, we'll see. I think for me the big question is some of these upgrades, who are they aimed for, who are they aimed at, right? Are they aimed at more that entrepreneur? They definitely feel that they're aimed at more that entrepreneurial seller and not necessarily for the top end of town that they're going after, but definitely moving in that vein. So that's the first one, Shopify Editions. Everyone who's in the who's who of the agency Shopify land will be talking about it. And I think in 2 weeks there's a Toronto one-day big conference with the agencies, so I'm sure I'll have more to talk about in that in a couple of weeks. The second one I want to talk about, and I'll try my best. I'll probably be as clear as mud, but the second one that's really in my mind, I'm very aware that I'm a little bit biased because I've just finished up. I was partnered in an agency for 6.5 years, scaling a mid-market Shopify agency, but it is, I feel it's not just my bias, but I think the future of agency it really is going to shift significantly in the next 12 months. I feel like a lot of the mid-market agencies they're already aware of this, and they're probably looking for how they adapt their approach. So when I speak about that, what I mean is a really successful agency from the past would be you've got new projects in and you've got a really healthy managed services retainer based business. I feel now in the with AI and even the key platforms, right? So generative AI, all the chat GPTs, but plus even like the drops from Shopify, it's really pushing agencies to rethink about how they do business. And I think there's a big risk for the agencies who play in that really small end of town, who do, quite like, theme based designs and, quick builds to get them up. Really, what's happening in the Shopify land is you're you're probably going to take that in house, right? Like direct to consumer brands, it's becoming a lot more intuitive. But even the bigger end of town, it has to be a lot more about being that business partner rather than an order taker. You're going to have to come with your philosophy to the client, explaining why, really have that subject matter expertise, and probably start to go a little bit deeper with your clients rather than broader. So much more strategic play coming up in agency. And that's from the agency angle. When I look at the retailers I advise to, one of the new kind of questions I would be kind of pushing up my list of questions to ask an agency if they were looking for one would be, tell me about what your approach is to AI. How are you being more efficient with the use of my retainer and my money? What processes are you doing? But also, how can you build, how can I make sure I'm spending my money in the most optimized way? So yeah, there's definitely a little bit of a pivot there, but I think it's a great one, and I think that some agencies will do really well from it. But yeah, I think the volume of smaller Shopify agencies we've seen come up, it's like that adapt or die next 6 to 12 months. We've went through the wave of like we've moved a lot of people off of quite custom platforms, maybe that more, the Magento world. We've moved a lot of people into this more SaaS environment, whether it be like a big commerce or a Shopify. And now with these new tools, I mean, I was getting annoyed with the AI thing. I was like, oh wow, but you can't ignore it. It's really transforming the way we're doing everything. And I think now what I would say is being a generalist isn't really going to cut it now. You have to have deep understanding of the technology they use and how they're going to market, and be almost like a strategic advisor now, rather than taking a Jira board of tasks and doing them. That isn't going to be the way that you're going to grow your agency. So I think it's driven by technology. I think the mid-market tech have really good teams that can be more agile, and they're rolling out these tools, they're changing the game. And the retailers that have smart people in-house are going to start asking a lot more questions to their agency partner. So technology, I would say, is driving it more than, like, pulling the purse strings a bit tight. I think it's more driven by the tech.
Got you. Got you. Yeah, I mean, listen, it's a good segue into like my one thing is like I was experimenting with doing a show with AI and seeing what that what that would look like. And I asked ChatGPT what would be the top 5 trends just to get a feel. I think 3 of them I agreed with, and 2 of them I were like, I don't know, because one of them it says 5G. Okay. And you see it here.
Absolutely. Let's break it down. Here are the top 5 digital transformation trends sweeping across the Asia Pacific region.
Okay.
First, AI and machine learning integration. Companies are rapidly adopting AI and machine learning to enhance everything from customer service to supply chain management. This is driving efficiency and creating more personalized consumer experiences, particularly in e-commerce and fintech. Second, 5G rollout and adoption. The rapid deployment of 5G networks is transforming connectivity, enabling innovations in smart cities, IoT, and real-time data analytics. This leap in infrastructure is positioning the region as a global leader in ultra-fast connectivity. Third, e-commerce and digital payments boom. The region is witnessing a surge in e-commerce platforms and digital payment solutions. Super apps like Grad and Gojek are becoming one-stop ecosystems, integrating payments, delivery, and financial services, reshaping consumer behavior. Fourth, cloud computing and SaaS growth. There's a significant shift toward cloud adoption and SaaS solutions, driven by the need for scalability and remote work capabilities. This trend is empowering businesses to innovate faster and reduce operational costs. Fifth, digital health and telemedicine expansion. The pandemic accelerated the adoption of telemedicine and digital health platforms. Countries like Singapore, Japan, and South Korea are leading the way in integrating digital health solutions into mainstream healthcare, improving access and patient outcomes. These trends are not only shaping the future of the Asia-Pacific region, but also setting benchmarks for global digital transformation. Let's explore each of these in more detail and see how they're influencing the market landscape.
Yeah, the thing is, I was watching this Diary of a CEO, Stephen Bartlett thing, and it was a real sort of like we are sleepwalking into like the AI taking over everything, right?
Yeah.
And I sort of ran that through my mind. I was thinking, okay, if they say that, would podcasts be replaced if you
Mhm.
can get like a conversational AI like the one from ChatGPT to be able to get it? We're not there yet, but I definitely
Yeah.
think it's not 5 years away. It's not 10
No.
years away. 18, 24 months, you'll be
Yeah.
seeing, and I don't know, maybe that'll be my claim to fame, the first AI generated podcast. But
Yeah.
I don't know how many people want to listen to that. But anyway, that's
Mhm.
my looking glass into the future about, I think we're still not capitalizing on what AI can do for us,
Yeah.
specifically within retail.
Yeah. And even the stats, like when you hear them, I definitely think some of the big guys in the Asia Pacific region are actually further ahead than even some of the US retailers, right? Like some of
Yeah,
the, some of the ones you're going to meet in NRF Asia are going to blow your mind.
yeah,
They're so far ahead, and I think that's where the divide is getting wider, right?
yes,
And there's a lot of people that are relying on the tech to drive the AI adoption, and then there's
yeah.
others that are taking matters into their own hands. So it's some of the info.
Look. I think we're on the cusp of it, and
Yeah.
it feels like no one wants to talk about it because no retailer wants to come out and say, "Yeah, we're going to cut our workforce by 50% in merchandising, operations, finance, and marketing because we've just created an AI model that can do the first 5 things." It's a human in the loop, and they keep saying AI won't take your job. Someone working with AI will take your job. But I just feel, given the margins in retail, it feels like it's going to be a bit faster than we think, this transformation that we're doing.
100%. And probably leaning back into that point of agency, I think the fractional piece, the fractional people are going to become like we had the buzz, everyone was fractional, which was just consultants calling themselves fractional. But I feel now we're moving into real fractional expertise is going to be what drives that AI adoption. So you're
Yeah.
still going to need kind of that real senior fractional consultant or agency, but I think
Yeah.
everyone else will be very much where can you use AI and where do you need the human? And we're in that pathway of people don't know where a lot of the mid tier they're a bit lost, so they still need expertise and they're leaning on their agencies or their best partners. But how long will that take, or will it just keep changing so rapidly that we won't become obsolete? They'll still need to
Hopefully.
listen to a podcast and not chat GPT isn't going to be your
I
podcast.
hope so, yeah. But anyway, let's go over to Ryf
I think
and listen to
For me, the
Ryf's
top two. There's
top
the
two.
number one thing right now is the heat's come out of. There's really the geopolitical situation, which we've seen over the last sort of I don't know 100 days has calmed. And in my home market of Australia, we've had consecutive rate drops at the Reserve Bank, and we're starting to see the green shoots of optimism. Even though obviously the US has drawn a lot of creative, it's drawn a lot of ire. I think that ultimately for the region, we're seeing a real feeling like we're emerging from the mist. Australia certainly is turning a corner. Inflation's back under control. The Southeast Asian region really has always been chugging along, but I feel like there's certainly growth in the region, and I think in other parts of the region, I think people are beginning to turn their heads from battening down the hatches to thinking about where their next bet is going to be, their expansion is going to be, their opportunity is going to be, and that sort of augurs well for us. And that's how my number two is. I have a show coming up in 2 weeks, and I think what the global context has done has given us real focus for this region, and that focus is and our role in that focus it's about intra Asia Pacific trade. And I think for me, that's really neat because it is a great place to do business in this region. It's I've always said, as I travel around the region, there are a lot of friendly faces and a lot of people willing to collaborate. We don't have a lot of barriers between us in terms of trade barriers, and I think that and what we've found this year from the show is that leaders have been very, very keen to participate, and so I think for our show, the outcome of that positivity has been the fact that our 11 keynotes this year are all C-level execs. They're not heads of departments. We've got executive directors. We've got chairs of Australian businesses. We have presidents of Filipino businesses. We've got global CEO of Lotte and FairPrice from Singapore. So it's those CEOs are coming towards us, and they don't come and speak at a show like ours without a considered purpose. And I think that purpose is to put out their shingle and say we're ready to do business. And so that's really neat. And then on sort of building on that thought around a really strong program, and certainly stronger than 2024, which was great in itself, is that these CEOs are coming together. So this year we're launching the NRF APAC CEO Club, and it's really from the learning that we need to facilitate some networking through the region for intra Asia Pacific trade, and we've got roughly. Excuse me. We've got roughly. I knew the phone would ring. It's just 2 weeks before a show. Everyone breathe. Where was I? Now, so we're going to have over 100 CEOs who are coming to the show to be part of CEO Club to meet other peers from the region. And that means CEOs aren't not looking inward; they're looking outward. which is a really good sign. A really good sign. And so I'm excited about that because, that's we're seeing that number one thing is geographic lifting of the tide in terms of economic conditions that is leading to a much stronger participation in the show from leadership this year than 2024. And as I said, 2024 was no slouch, but this year it's gone another level. And I think that participation is really a reflection of, optimism and positivity about trading within the region. The thing that we realized last year when we looked at our show, we replicated a lot of programs from the US. And through that journey, we learned quite quickly that in the US, when they run their format called the Red Carpet Club, the CEOs are domestic. So they all know each other. So when, the CEO of Walmart, John Furner, walks into BJ's and it's Bob Eddy, they know each other and they walk in and they run and they chat, right? And both lovely men. But when you come to this part of the world, as you say, it's so diverse. And so our role and purpose for leadership became really clear. We need to have a forum that allowed the networking and connection to take place. So to answer your question, yes, we're having a mixer on the first night, and that mixer will be a bit of a welcome from us, but also some technology which will allow them to connect with each other at the show, create meetings with each other in an exclusive environment that's partitioned away from the main show. And then they've got a lounge that they can retreat to. They can have meetings in, they can retire and do a few emails or do a few bits and pieces, because then we know that these people are busy and they're going to cherry pick content, and quite often it's what happens on the sidelines that counts for these guys. So creating a safe place away from the hubbub of the expo and conference, which allows them to retreat, regroup, have a meeting, find a partner, those type of things. So, but that mixer up front will allow them to take the first step of connecting with others in the room. I might need a hug next week on Friday. You never know. It's all going well, but when you run a show, it's waves of emotion. So we're on a bit of a roll. No, it's all good. It's exciting. It's really exciting. Okay, thank you, Alex. Cheers.
So that was the wonderful Ryf and giving his top two. Okay, well, listen, until next week, have a lovely week.
Bye, Alex. Have a lovely day. Bye.
Cheers.